Okay, so Chilipo, you have the floor. Thank you. Chilipo, can you hear me? We can't hear you if you are speaking.
Good afternoon, everyone, wherever you are. I'll just share my screen. Yeah, I can hear you. I'm just trying to share my screen. Don't know if you can see my screen. Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear?
Yes, I can hear you now, but we've not seen your screen. Hello. Okay, I think his network is bad. Maybe he stepped out to come back again.
Let's try this again. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Good evening and good afternoon, everyone, wherever you are. If Sola, could you just make me a co-host again so that I can share my screen?
Okay, let me do that immediately.
Thank you. While Miss Sola is just making me co-host, welcome to our first webinar on School Builders Lab. And my name is Chilipo Ogunda, and I am from Malawi, Southern Africa, for those who may not know Malawi. So I'll just kindly share my screen. And could you confirm if you can see my screen and if it's full screen?
Yeah, it's full screen now.
Perfect. Thank you. So today I will be talking about the School Builders Lab, and mostly I will be talking about it in terms of my experience as having been on the program myself recently and recently graduated. So I will be my title for my webinar today is Inside the School Builders Lab, and predominantly we'll be looking at building educational leadership excellence. So, as I said, today the theme we'll be looking at from being a participant at School Builders Lab to my transformation as a school leader. And I'll take you through just my journey through the School Builders Lab. We'll look at what exactly is the School Builders Lab, and then we'll look at my personal experience from the program, what I learned, the key takeaways, and how it's transformed me as a school leader. And then we'll look at some of the opportunities and pathways that may come your way after you have attended the program. And then if there are any questions and answers, might have time for that at the end. So first of all, what is the School Builders Lab? So School Builders Lab is an initiative which originated from Nigeria, and Ms. Sola is the sort of the brainchild behind this amazing program. So the mission of the School Builders Lab is to equip educators, predominantly from across Africa, with the skills, systems, and confidence to be able to move classroom practice into effective school leadership. The vision for the School Builders Lab is to raise school leaders who build strong and sustainable schools across Africa. As any good organization, School Builders Lab has got its own core values, and these are to build systems that work in schools across Africa, to uplift and support at the same time develop people. They believe in integrity, and in this, they believe in doing what is right. Then also there is leadership aspect to it. So they take responsibility to drive change. And then lastly, deliver on results and real impact on across the continent of Africa. So if you look closely, all those core values, they all spell the word build, because the core essence of School Builders Lab, and it's in the name of School Builders Lab, is to build leaders. So what does it look like? So this is now my experience. So we, as participants from the first pilot program, we undertook the Foundations of School Leadership course, and we did several courses. Then these were weekly courses that we took. So for example, we had a course on school operations, and then we went and looked at human resource fundamentals. We looked at financial literacy, governance in schools. We also looked at student experience, strategic thinking, and enrollment and growth basics. So I'll take you through each one of these, and just to give you a bit more taste of what each one actually had. And also we had technology in school systems, or nowadays popularly known as EdTech. So the very first week, as I said, all these programs were weekly programs. So just to give you an idea of what they actually look like. So you'd have a week of an online course whereby you were given tutorials, and after each tutorial, we are encouraged to engage via the online platform. So we'll give comments and give each other feedback based on that. And then our course tutor would then give us overall feedback on how we're doing. At the end of that course or that week, we would then do a little test to sort of, or an assessment, just to see how well we've understood the course of that week. And then on a Saturday, we would have the like a 2-hour session, an online session via Zoom with an expert in that particular field. So for example, we would have on a weekend, have someone who is a financial literacy guru who would come on and give us a little bit of a taste of how they've actually managed and grown as leaders, but with a skill set linked to financial literacy. So for example, we had a course on school operations. And from this, some of the things that we did was to understand the role of systems and in ensuring consistency. Before I came on this course, I had an understanding of the school system based on what I do on a daily basis. So for example, I was very good at understanding the school systems with regards to academics, but I didn't have sort of the idea or the experience of now understanding how does logistics work, how does the finance team, for example, work together with the administrator in the school, and how do these two work together with the HR. So this course sort of was an eye-opener for us as school leaders to now be able to see things differently, with a different mindset, just to see that schools are not just based on what's going on in the classroom. There's a bigger operations that are involved in ensuring that a successful school is indeed successful. We identified some key operational structures within the school, and we also looked at how we can then use data to inform operational decision making. So for example, how many students do we have enrolled currently? And then how does that drive the financial output or the operations of the school, and some of the decisions that are based on operations? We evaluated how operations support teaching and learning. And we said how without a proper structure of operations, then teaching and learning would somehow be chaotic. You may have the best teachers in the world, but if your operations are not consistent, then you would have a chaotic school at the end of the day. We also looked at human resource fundamentals, and this was my favorite of them all, because as teachers, we are trained to just look at, as I keep saying, the classroom, but we never get time to look at then how do we do with the hiring of the best teachers or best staff, and at the same time, how do we maintain those good members of staff? And then if we have a staff member that is not up to sort of our standard, how do we then actively let go of them. So some of the focus areas was, for example, as I said, understanding effective recruitment and selection practices. And this was, I'll talk about a capstone project later, but this was the basis of my capstone project, looking at how to effectively recruit the best teachers. We also looked at analyzing the importance of induction, staff induction, and developing. So when you have the best staff, or sometimes you may not have the best staff to hire at the first time, but how do you induct them and how do you develop them to become even better teachers or staff members? And then we also had a glimpse of how to apply performance management systems. And then we explored how some of the approaches that we can have to staff retention and culture building. How do you build a positive culture within a school? Another course that we did, this was now in our third week, we looked at financial literacy. I think we all can agree that in our degrees or universities, when you're learning, one of the key things that is missing is always the financial aspect of our careers. How do we ensure that whatever we do is actually financially viable? Schools, at the end of the day, be it public or private, they are business institutions. So you need to think about the incomes and the outputs. How much money is coming in and how much money is going out. And you need to be able to balance that. And it's our job as school leaders to make sure that we do that effectively. So some of the things that we learned from this is to understand some of the basic budgeting principles in schools. We have never, I for one, had never done any budgetary courses before. So this was just an eye-opener to say, as a school builder or as a school leader, how do you build or come up with an effective budget? We analyzed how financial decisions impact outcomes. Some decisions might seem simple, but in the long run might have a big financial implication in the school. I can give an example. If you decide as a school that one way of saving money is that we're not going to pay good salaries for our teachers, or we'll hire the cheapest teachers possible to save on salary expense, the impact of that is that your teaching and learning will suffer. So then that led on to us developing an awareness of financial stability, sustainability. How do we ensure that inputs and outputs match in the school? And then interpreted some key financial information for decision making. How do we make the best decisions as school leaders? We also looked at school governance, another fantastic course, because we as school leaders, you may agree with me if you're a school leader or an upcoming school leader, that governance, if not done in the right way, will cripple your school. You may have a very good head teacher, you may have a very good owner of the school, you may have fantastic teachers in the school. But if your school governance or board members are not fully conversant of how to actually govern that school, then you're in trouble. So in this particular week, we looked at building an understanding of the role of governance in schools. We looked at the difference between governance and leadership responsibilities. What is exactly the job of a school governor and what is the job of the school leaders? We analyzed how school policies can support accountability and compliance. If you have school governors in place, what policies drive their effective work? We evaluated some stakeholder engagement, effective stakeholder engagement. How then do school governors, school leaders, the teachers then engage with the wider community of the school? That is parents, the community itself, people within the community, people around the school. How do you effectively engage with them? At the center of any school is a student. So if you don't understand what the student experience looks like within the school, then you are not running a school. So this, again, was a key eye-opener because we looked at having an understanding of what a holistic student experience looks like beyond the classroom. What are we providing our students in terms of their education? Are they in class learning the best way possible? Are they, when they leave the classroom, are they happy students? Are they happy with the school surroundings? or are they going home complaining about the school? We analyze the role of student voice in school culture. How do we encourage our students to make sure that they are actually voicing out their concerns? If they're happy, how do we know that they're happy? And if they're not happy with the school, how then at the same time do we also understand that they are unhappy? And then we developed and evaluated some strategies of supporting well-being of our students and a sense of belonging, just to make sure that our students are happy with the environment. And then we looked at also connected student experience to the outcomes and engagement, because at the end of the day, we are a school. We want our students not only to be happy, but also be outstanding students. So how then do we link all these things together? We developed our skills in strategic thinking as well. This was now in week 6. We did a course on strategic thinking. And in this, we had an understanding of the principles of strategic thinking. And this is in line with aligning the vision of the school with actionable priorities. So does the vision on the mission statement of the school match the actionable priorities? And one thing I keep forgetting to say, maybe in all of this, is that in those sort of focus sessions on the weekend, when we had a guru from these particular areas, we were then quizzed or just sort of challenged in terms of now being able to think differently. Because sometimes you think you've got it all. You might think you're the best strategic thinker, but it takes you hearing from someone with experience and sort of leadership, having that leadership ground to be able to think differently. We also then linked with a student experience, looking at school enrollment and growth basis. So understanding what factors influence student enrollment. How do we ensure that students are actually joining our school? And if the students are not enrolling in terms of the numbers that we expect, what are we doing about it to change? So this has got some elements of marketing in it. Like, how do you then analyze the relationship between the brand as a school, the identity that you have within the community, and then how are you growing? So we looked at, when you have the numbers, how then do you retain those students, and at the end of the day, ensure that you have got a sustainable school. And then lastly, we also looked at EdTech in school systems. What school exists out there without technology nowadays? So you may agree with me that if you are running an effective school, there has to be some technology. But just because you've got technology, and I'm talking like, for example, just because you've got computers, printers, internet in your school, doesn't mean that you have the best school in the world. So this course, in this particular week, it helped us understand some of the roles that technology has in school systems, starting from administration, school leadership, to student engagement. How does technology help schools? We looked at some of the tools that can improve efficiency and data use. We also analyzed how technology can support teaching and learning, but then also as a school leader, be able to now provide the right technology. We also identified some of the challenges that are there in implementing school technology. So those are just some of the courses that we did on a weekly basis. As I said, every week involved some online sessions whereby this was like in your own self-directed time. You could do it on your own. And it was quite enjoyable because not only are you learning in the comfort of your own space, but then you're also then given an opportunity to interact virtually with others by putting in your comments and then reading the feedback from other people. And then at the end of it, you were sort of queried or challenged or assessed on your understanding by doing a short quiz at the end of it. So it was quite an interesting experience for me because, as I said, some of these courses I had never done before in my life. I have 15 years of experience as a school leader, but I had never actually undertaken a course in, for example, school governance or school finance, and even on EdTech. So it's helped me just to think differently about my school, but also then have a very good and solid understanding of what it takes to effectively run the school. Then at the end of those couple of weeks, we were then given the exciting challenge of coming up with a capstone project. So as I can guess now, having done it, I see the relevance of this capstone project. It was for us to be able to now apply what we've learned into practice, because what is the purpose of doing all of that without having actually be given a chance to practice what you've learned? So we were now given a chance to explore real world school leadership challenge. So we were given all the 8 topics. For example, you were asked to choose one and then explore it in the real world experience. We were then asked to design a context specific practical solution. Now, I like this part because what it did was teach us how to think differently and think about our particular schools, because all these are fantastic, but the way you can apply them in your schools will be different. The way I apply the same 8 courses in Malawi will be different to the way someone applies them in Ghana, maybe different to the way someone applies them in South Africa or in Nigeria. So it was interesting for me to be able to think about it now from a Malawian perspective, but also from my particular school's perspective. And then it also strengthened our problem solving and decision making, because at the end of the day, you were solving a problem in your school. So it taught us to be able to think about particular problems and finding solutions to it. I think one of the key things that I always see in schools is that people like to complain. People always complain about systems are not right. This is not going well. The finances of the school are not going well. But are you thinking about the solutions to it? So this capstone project was exciting for me because it helped me think about how to actually come up with a solution in my particular school. So my capstone project, just to take you through it, I did one on HR and I focused on recruitment and staff retention. So I looked at how I can, as a school leader, ensure that I have the right policies in place or the right structure and procedures to ensure that I am hiring the best teachers out there. Not only teachers, but also then other admin staff. Then at the end of the day, when you have hired those people, I looked at how we can return and induct them in the right procedure, and then also make sure that there's staff development systems in place to make sure that you are now continuously growing those staff members. But I think also my area of growth was to be able to now look at how do you get rid of staff that you don't like in your school or staff that are not effective, because every school in the world will have that one staff member who's not doing the job in the right way. So how then do you ensure that you have the right strategies in place to not retain those staff members? So for me, I think that was the problem solving aspect of it, because I, as a person, with regards to my personality, I am one person who does not like confrontations. So then that's a challenge, because what it means is that if I have a very challenging staff member in my school, it would be very difficult for me to get rid of them. So this course sort of taught me how to come up with strategies to still avoid confrontations, but still make sure that we have systems in place that are not retaining those staff members. So at the end of it all, here are some of the key takeaways that I had from this program. I learned that leadership works best when people, systems, and culture are aligned. You need to understand how all these things work together. And then you also then need to make sure that you have the right leadership skills to make sure that this is working in the best way possible. For me, HR was a big thing because it was a challenge. So I had some HR development, and I believe that from now, one thing I can take away is that human resources in any school is central to building a sustainable school performance. If you don't have the right people, your school is not sustainable. Can't get rid of the people who are not good for your school is not going to be sustainable. And then also, my other takeaway is that effective leadership depends on turning strategy into consistent practice. So not only should you have that good strategies, you may have the best policies, the best strategies in the world, but if you don't have that consistency, ensuring that these are continuously followed and improved all the time, then your school is not going to be sustainable. So some people might be asking to say, okay, what will then change for me after I have enrolled into the School Builders Lab program? So some of the key possible pathways that you might have as a school leader. And one thing I liked about School Builders Lab is how sort of contextualized it was. So most of the programs that we did were focused on Africa. So most of the pathways I can think of here are things that are possible pathways within the African context. So some of the career pathways that people might have or might be sort of in a position to achieve after the School Builders Lab is, for example, if you were either a middle leader in your school, after I believe the School Builders Lab, you have the possibility of now growing from being a middle leader in the school. So, for example, if you were a head of department, you stand a very good chance of now growing or sort of rising through the ranks to become a senior leader in the school. So this is now from a head of department, for example, to now becoming a senior teacher or a deputy head within the school. If you are someone who is not a teacher, because the other thing as well I want to say about the School Builders Lab is like, you don't have to be a teacher to be on the program. You can also be a school administrator. So you can easily, after School Builders Lab, move into looking at school operations. Or you can be someone who's involved in HR, but wants to improve your understanding of how HR in schools actually works. Or if you want to move into pastoral leadership in the school, I feel like also this was a very good program for people. Ultimately, the School Builders Lab, it's in the name. It's to build schools. So I think what was intertwined throughout all the 10 weeks that we did the program was focused on school improvement. How do we make sure that our schools are growing and becoming the best possible schools out there? Also, if you are not directly involved in a school, you can also develop some advisory skills to be able to now come in and advise different schools to be able to say, okay, where is your school struggling? Being able to come in, identify where the problem is, and then finding solutions to those problems. Also, I think lastly, I would say a possible career pathway is what it's that School Builders Lab could enable one to contribute to education leadership training and coaching programs. Because I think for me, one thing it's taught me is to now be able to analyze schools in a different way. I before had the experience of looking at the academics, but the School Builders Lab has now taught me to look at different areas of the school, which means I am in a now a very comfortable, good position to be able to come in and go into any school across the world and be able to offer concrete, sound advice. Lastly, I thought that was the last one, but this is the last one. And the last possible career pathway is being able to be in a position to move into school leadership or executive leadership roles. So if you want to be a head teacher, a principal, or even a school owner, if you want to ever own a school one day, this is a very good program for you. So I think I'll end with an inspirational quote. And this is the quote that I said in one of the sessions. I think it was during the closing ceremony. For me, I think one key takeaway, if I can summarize School Builders Lab or my experience through School Builders Lab, is that I believe now that strong schools are not built by individuals, but by leaders who build people. So it's about building people, systems, and a culture that will outlast them. So for me, from my experience through School Builders Lab, I believe in my current school, I will now happily build systems that will outlast me. I may leave tomorrow, but whatever I've built in my school will last the next 10 to 20 years. If I move on to the next school, I'll also build systems that will then also outlast me. And to me, that is real impact of School Builders Lab. So I'll end there, and I don't know if there may be a few questions, but I decided just to keep it short, just so that you have a taste of what School Builders Lab is all about. The good thing is that we have members of School Builders Lab online with us. So if there are any questions, feel free to answer them. But also, if you feel like you want to ask me particular or individual questions, feel free to get in touch and ask those questions. Thank you.
Wow, this is really, really amazing. This is really amazing, honestly. You heard from the alumni, Chilipo is a Malawian, and this is somebody that I've not met before. We only met on School Builders Lab brought us together, and then you've heard a real experience from the program, very real experience from the program. The next question naturally becomes, what does this mean for you? You know, what does it mean for you? Are you going to invest? Please mute your mic. Okay, so what does this mean for you? Are you just going to sit there or take advantage of, what we have now? The first cohort that Chilipo was talking about was the pilot cohort. And if we can have it, please mute your mics, please. So, and if we can have it as exciting as that, just imagine now, because every time we are coming up, but this time around, we are the same elements, the same flow, the LMS, the live sessions every Saturday. Now we are going to be having fortnightly webinars, So apart from the 8 live sessions, we are still going to have 4 other webinars that will speak to, your branding, that will speak to emotional intelligence, that will speak to every other thing that we didn't capture, right? Hussein, I was asking you a question that are you on any of the WhatsApp group? You want to drop the message so that we'll be able to follow up with you. Happiness, could you please confirm from Hussein if he's on any of the WhatsApp group? Fine. If not, you want to add him to one. So, like I said, the next question naturally becomes, what does this mean for you? Because at the end of the day, it's not just the opportunities that open up, you know, um, it's has been born out of passion by teachers for teachers. A lot of us started from the classroom. We were able to put together what we once needed. I remember when I started my journey as a school head, director of operations. Before now, right now, I'm working as the chief operating officer. I didn't know what to do. I was looking for a platform. I mean, operation, school operation, education operation, not general operation. I was looking for a platform where I could learn. They say, yeah, I know I have an idea. When we go to colleges of education, university of education, for faculty of education, nobody will teach you all this one. They teach us how to teach, you know, and so this is a solution for Africans by Africans. So you don't want to snooze. If you have any question, you can reach out to us. You can visit the website schoolbuilderslab.net.ng. From there, you will get our phone numbers. From there, you get what again? You get our emails. You can send messages to us. even on WhatsApp. We'll take your questions that will walk you through. If you want to pay instrumentally, yeah, you pay 50% down payment now. Then you spread the remaining 50% across the month of June and July alone, right? Just come up with your questions, your challenges, whatever it is. We have a discount that is running from now to May 15th. Do not hesitate. Don't keep your questions. Ask your questions so that we can help clarify. As we speak right now, we've registered with the TRC, and that's the Teacher Registration Council of Nigeria. We are also going to be working with the UKCPD. We started a conversation with them. So all of these things are things that are in the pipeline that we are going to do. So I don't want to say too much because Chilipo had done justice to this. I just thought to add some layer to some of the things that he has said. Thank you very much. Chilipo, back to you.
Thank you, Ms. Sola. That was indeed good additions to it. I think also for me, I would strongly urge everyone, especially if you're in Africa. I said in our graduation that there's nothing like this across the continent of Africa. You may look online. Well, before even this, I was always looking for training courses online. But all the courses that you find that they are either from Europe or America. And if you ever enroll in it, you find that the way the course is designed is not really fit for Africa. So I do appreciate the School Builders Lab, the team at School Builders Lab, just the fantastic work they've done in building that is for Africa by Africans, solving African challenges by Africans in the African way. And I believe through this, our schools will be in safe hands. It's a good investment because ultimately it leads to having the best schools across. I think one thing for me that I find very hurtful is whenever I am watching, like, say, for example, the BBC or any American news channel, and they talk about education in Africa, is always negative. There's never anything positive about the education system in Africa. But for me, being Pan-African, I think we need to be the drivers of that change. We need to dream of that day whereby when people look at our education and our schools, people come and learn from us. People should be coming to learn about how we lead the best schools across the world. And one of the best investments you can ever do is School Builders Lab. Thank you. I don't know if there are any questions.
I'm not sure there are any questions. What I just have is, would you please share the presentation material? Okay, so we'll share that. That is even if you check, you find it on Facebook. Once we post it on YouTube channel, we'll share the link.
We seem to have lost Ms. Sola. So on that note, I think we will end it here. I think she was trying to say that we will share the PowerPoint, and this webinar was being recorded. So we will share on Facebook and all our different platforms. If there are no more questions, we will close. close the meeting here. Thank you for joining and wishing you all the best. Thank you.